Hello, hello. Good evening, everybody. We are back again for another live chat. This is Nights with Nora, and I have a very special guest with me tonight. I'm so excited about her. Her name is Suzan, and Suzan, myself and Suzan actually met in college, guys. And we were both in psychology at the time, and she's went on to do many more things with that as well. She has a master's degree. She's working on a PhD right now, so she has a plethora of knowledge for us up on tonight, ladies. We are talking about adolescence, we're talking about peds, and we are talking about behavioral health tonight. Talking about behavior, we're talking about how we can reach children on a different level. I know so many ladies in the group have come and talked to me about their kids and
Why that
troubles
did
they
that?
may be
Where did
having.
I go?
And at this
There we go.
time, I have brought Miss Suzan on to kind of bring clarity to that, to explain what is
Second.
going on with our teenagers, what's going on with our adolescents, and to maybe give some clarity to all you ladies and some hope to some moms out there tonight. So I'm going to let Suzan talk to you guys today. She has a little bit of curriculum that she's going to give us, a teaching skill, so you guys get out your pens and pads or your iPhones, your smartphones, your dumb phones, whichever way it goes, and take some notes, because I think she has critical things that she could add to your tool belt to help you with this parenting that you guys may be struggling with. Okay, so I'll go ahead and let Suzan introduce herself a little bit more, and thank you again, Suzan, for joining me.
So I lost sound. I can't hear.
Oh, you can't hear me?
I don't know what I did.
Just a second, you guys. Can you hear me now? Yeah. I'm gonna see.
I can't hear.
Okay, just a second.
Huh.
Maybe go out and come back. Let's see. I don't know. I'm gonna go
Can you
out
hear
and come
me?
back.
I'm not sure how to get the sound to come back on. Hey, Nora, if you can hear me, I will just go ahead and start. I can't hear you at the moment. So, okay, everyone. Okay, sounds good. All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and start. I'm Suzan Doyle-Roeder, and I am a board certified behavior analyst. I'm licensed in the state of Missouri, and board certification, of course, is national. So I basically can work anywhere. Usually all they make you do in a state is pay for a license fee. But I'm also I am in my fourth year of my PhD program for applied behavior analysis as well. So hopefully within the year I will have my doctorate. And I love behavior analysis. Both of my children have autism. They are aged 24 and 18, and these tools that I have learned and that I teach other people to learn, or teach other people to use. Are just, they're the best thing ever. Behavior analysis is a science, and so there are actually laws of behavior, and that's what I'm going to kind of talk to you guys about, is the laws of behavior and how all of this works. Okay, so we're going to start with contingencies. So contingencies, they are reinforcement and punishment. Hi, Nora, can you hear me still?
Hey, I'm back. Thank you for going on.
Okay, that's okay.
Technical issues. Go ahead. I am taking notes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so contingencies are reinforcement and punishment. That doesn't necessarily mean what you think it does. All reinforcement means is that it's likely to increase the behavior, and then punishment is likely to decrease the behavior. Okay, so when a behavior analyst starts talking about punishment, it doesn't mean like punishment. That's not what it is. In fact, like punishment is not allowed. It's not something that's typically allowed in behavior analysis. Things have to get really extreme for that. So what we typically do, like what I'm doing in my practice, is I'm teaching parents, what we want to do is we want to focus on the behavior that you want to see, and then we want to put the problem behavior on extinction. And what that's called is differential reinforcement. Okay, so we're looking at how can we increase the good behavior and decrease the bad behavior down to nothing. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about mainly, is differential reinforcement. Extinction, fading the bad behavior down to extinction is tricky, because that means the behavior can never be reinforced again. Okay. So, let's say that the problem behavior is cussing. Okay. Let's say that your little kid all of a sudden said a cuss word in front of grandma. Oh my goodness. And let's say, because this is typically what I see, let's say that behavior was attention maintained. So let's say that the kid said the cuss word, everybody freaked out. The kid thought it was hilarious. Okay. And believe me, 99% of the time, that's what I'm dealing with, is exactly what I'm telling you.
Right.
So the kid thinks it's hilarious. And so then they keep doing it because they think it's funny how grandma and mom and dad reacted to that. Okay.
Right.
So what I end up having to tell parents is, if it's attention maintained, you're going to have to not pay attention to it. You're going to have to ignore it, you know? And it's amazing how quickly ignoring something like that will make it stop. Because what you'll see is, you'll see the kid say the cuss word, and then they'll kind of grin, and then you'll see them glance over at you because they're waiting for that reaction. They want to see that reaction. And when it doesn't come, they're like, oh, that wasn't fun at all. Okay. So basically, and I'm seriously, I'm telling you, it doesn't matter if I'm working with a 3-year-old or a 60-year-old.
Right.
99% of the time, that's what's going on. It's
Right.
that attention maintained behavior, and it's how the parent is reacting to it that's keeping it going. Okay. So that's one of the main things. I also
So even with the 3-year-olds, because you know what, Susan, I have a 3-year-old, and I know that people have older kids and stuff like that. So I noticed that with my 3-year-old, she thinks it's funny to stick her finger in her nose and like, which is
oh,
disgusting, right?
sure. Yeah.
And so when everybody freaks out, it's like, oh, that's nasty. She's like laughing and think it's great.
Don't,
You know?
yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I know. I know. And other kids are the worst about that. I mean, and that's what fuels those behaviors at school too. Is that the kid sticks their finger in their nose, and all the other kids laugh. And
Right.
so that keeps that behavior going. And so that's the thing, is that, we have to make sure that that behavior is not getting that attention, so that it's not funny anymore. All that's been taken away, and it's got to be done consistently. Because if mom is like, okay, we're not going to laugh at that anymore, and then dad's over here snickering where the kid can see it,
Yeah.
that's running the whole thing. So, and I mean, I see both of those a lot, because it one of the main things, and I know you've heard this probably over and over again, is that for parents to be on the same page,
Yes.
and always to be on the same page, and for the kids
Mm-hmm.
to know, I'm not going to be able to get away with that with dad, and then mom's going to tell me no, or vice versa. you know
Right.
Everyone on the same page, even grandma.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to be on the same page.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And yeah, it helps tremendously. That consistency is the most important thing. Once you learn, like, they say, if you do what you know until you know better, and then you do better. So
Exactly.
that's what I'm teaching people. Yeah, just, we've got to be able to be consistent and work together. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
I'm also going to talk a little bit about the escalation of behavior. Okay. And
Okay.
so this kind of explains how, how sometimes, people will say, oh my gosh, where she started hitting and kicking, and she threw a jar, and it just came out of nowhere. I had no idea that this was going to happen. Those things don't come out of nowhere. So
Right.
it's part of the escalation of behavior. Okay. And so the way we look at this is like, picture a soda machine. Okay. And so
Mm-hmm.
you walk up to the soda machine, and you've got your change, and you put your change in the soda machine, and you hit Diet Coke, and nothing happens. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do next? Well, the first thing you do is your behavior increases in frequency. You press that button a few more times. Okay. And this is the same as a kid poking mom's buttons. Okay. Same thing. Okay. So you hit that button a few more times, and okay, you're still not getting what you want. So mom's still not laughing because you are getting upset because you cussed. And then the next thing you do is you're like, okay, I'm not getting my soda. I'm going to try hitting that button a little harder. So you start punching it, but if you soda, you're thinking, okay, so what can I do now? Usually what people do next is they start trying to shake that machine. They start trying to shake it. They start trying to kick it. They're trying to get their soda. Okay.
Right.
So what happens is, if that behavior gets reinforced at any of those points, okay, like let's say that whenever you just started punching the button, let's say that you got your soda then. Well, the next time you go up to that soda machine, the first thing you're going to do if your soda doesn't come out is you're going to start punching it.
Right.
Okay. And so that's what the kiddo's going to do too. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to engage in whatever behavior got them what they wanted the quickest. Okay. So another way I can explain this is like, so let's say you got the kiddo in the shopping cart at Walmart. You know, you're walking along, and you told the kid before you came in, you aren't going to get a cookie because you had cake at grandma's house, you know, so you're not going to get a cookie. So the kid gets upset, and so their behavior increases in that frequency. They start, you know, getting really upset and telling you that they're upset, and you let that go. You're ignoring it. You're going along, and then the kid's like, okay, that's not working. So what am I going to do next? Well, that behavior is going to increase in intensity. So they might start screaming and crying, you know, getting really loud.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, if you reinforce that behavior at that point, the next time this happens, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to start screaming and yelling right away because they're like, oh, this worked. I'm going to do it this way. But that's how you get into that, all of that with, you know, if the topography changes, you know, like where you're hitting and punching and kicking the soda machine, that's where the kiddo starts headbutting mom. They start banging their head on the cart, whatever they think they need to do to get whatever it is they want. Okay.
Wow.
And so you can't reinforce that behavior when they're doing their fit. You know, whenever they're going through this progress, you've got to make sure you're not reinforcing it. And that has to go for grandma and grandpa and everyone else too. Because if they start reinforcing it, especially at that topography change where they're banging their head on the cart, they're going to do that every time, you know. And that's where the parents are like, oh my gosh, that came out of nowhere and I can't believe that happened. Well, it didn't really come out of nowhere. At
Yeah.
some point it was reinforced, and that's why the kid did it, you know.
Yeah.
So you know, I always tell parents, you know, like if the head banging starts, if you know, if you get bit, do your best not to react. Don't react to that. I mean, and I know it's hard. I've been bit more times than I care to tell you. But if you
Mm-hmm.
don't react, they're like, oh, well, that didn't work, you know, and it
Mm-hmm.
stops. So you
Mm-hmm.
don't want to let those things work. If they're headbanging, you can always put your hand over the cart handle, you know, let them headbang on your hand, you know, that kind of thing. Don't look at them. Don't give them any verbal response. You know, just let them throw their fit. You know, you can protect them and you can take care of them without looking at them and giving them verbal response. Those are the two biggest things with attention maintained behavior like that. They're looking for that verbal, and they're looking for eye contact. And they
Exactly.
might start going, trying to catch your eyes because they're like,
Yes.
why
My God.
is mom not looking at me? It's not
Don't you
working.
see me? No,
You know, that kind of
yes.
thing.
Oh
But
my God.
don't let them have that. You know, you want to completely, I mean, I hate using the word ignore, but that's basically what it looks like. Technically, you're just not reinforcing it. So
Mm,
technically you're not ignoring them because, you know, you've got your arm on the cart handle, you're protecting them, you know, you're making sure they're okay. You're just not reinforcing it with the verbal and the eye contact. So
right.
that's just a huge piece there, you know, for everyone to remember. Don't give it eye contact. Don't give it verbal responses. Let it go. Just protect them and let them cry. And I know a lot of parents look at me and they're like, oh my gosh, but then everybody looks at me and I just hate this. And I'm like, you know, you kind of got to get over that because this is what's best for your child. And
Right.
those people can just go their own happy way. Just
Right.
don't
Exactly.
worry about
That's
them.
best
You know,
for the
you're
kid.
doing what's best for your child. So yeah, that's, and I know it's embarrassing. I have parents that it's just, for some people that's hard to get over. Believe me, for me, because both of my children had autism. We'd go
Right.
into the store and Ryder would think that the fluorescent lights buzzing was bugs up there, and she'd be going like this the whole time we were in the store. I know. I know that that can be tough, but people will get over it. Don't worry about them. Just do what's right for your child.
Wow.
Um, so the next thing I want to talk about, let me see, let me get my thing going here. Um, so they come out of nowhere. Okay, so this is just a little bit more. Actually, I've just talked about this. Like another behavior that I see constantly is kiddos doing this repetitive asking thing.
Oh.
So let's say that you told your kiddo that you were going to go to the store at 3 p.m. Okay, but the kiddo wants to go to the store right now. So they keep coming up to you and they keep going, I want to go to the store. 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 And parents are just like, oh my gosh, it drives me crazy. And then finally, I'm just like, fine, we'll go to the store right now. And then, of course, the kid thinks that's hilarious, number one, because they pushed the button until they made mom mad. And they got what they wanted because they got to go early.
Yeah.
And so you really have to block those things out. Okay. Again, you have to ignore that repetitive asking. Don't, once you tell them we're going at 3 o'clock, that discussion is over. You're not going to entertain that begging. You're just, there's going to be no verbal, there's going to be no eye contact. It's done. Mom already said. So it's finished. So
Yeah.
anytime someone, is like, if they're begging like that, and anytime someone, looks at them, they know they've got your attention. They know that you've heard them. And that just makes that behavior increase it even more. It goes through that same progress, like the soda machine. You don't
Mm,
want to go there.
yeah.
Once you said it, you gotta stick to it.
Yeah.
Don't let them get their foot in the door to try to get you to do something else.
And that's my
Yeah.
problem is I'm not consistent. I give in to the kids because I'm like,
I don't know
oh, I'm
why I
so
can't
sick
hear
of
you
asking.
again. I've
Yeah.
lost my sound again. I
Well,
don't
just
know
go
why.
ahead. Just go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So let's see. Differential reinforcement. Some things that you need to know about differential reinforcement is that so it does get worse before it gets better. Okay.
Mhm.
So and we kind of, if you've ever heard anyone talk about an extinction burst, okay, that's kind of what I'm talking about here. Once the kiddo realizes they're not going to be reinforced immediately for that problem behavior, they are going to try harder. They are going to try to go through those steps of like the soda machine. It depends on how long they've gotten away with that behavior. Okay,
Mm,
so if they've, like, let's say that it was the first time ever in the grocery store that that they didn't get their cookie, and and they tried the frequency and the intensity and it didn't work, so they stopped. Great, as long as that doesn't ever work for them, you're great, you're golden. But if this behavior's been going on for months, years, it's going to take it longer to go on extinction. And so you have to be prepared to go through those levels. It's going to increase in frequency, it's going to increase in intensity, and that topography where the hitting and the head banging and everything start, those things are most likely going to happen. And you just have to be ready for it. Sadly, there's just no other way to get out of that process other than undoing what's been done. Okay. So
mm.
basically you're backtracking. You're taking it back to the beginning, and the kiddo has to learn this doesn't work anymore. This, no matter what you do. So
Right.
that's where you're at if it's been going on for that long. And it's tough. I'm not going to tell you it's easy. It's harder when they're teenagers and they're bigger than you.
Mm,
This is something that, I always go through with parents that have little kids. You've got to get these behaviors under control when they're small, because when they're bigger than you, it's a different ballgame altogether. And
yeah.
that's like a big hunk of what I do is I work with teenagers that are, 16, 17, 18 years old that are extremely violent. Okay. Because these behaviors have been reinforced their whole life. And
Mm,
now all of a sudden the school's going, oh, well, we don't want to put up with this anymore.
mm.
They're going to have to stay home with you. And the parent's like, oh my gosh, what do I do? You know,
Yeah.
and the school reinforces those behaviors too. I mean, what do you think happens whenever the kid punches the teacher and gets sent home? The kids loving that. That's exactly what they
Exactly.
wanted, and sadly it's just that the schools don't know how to deal with these behaviors. Most of them don't have a behavior analyst on staff to say, oh no, you're not sending that kid home. I would rather them put the kid in a room with me than send him home, because I know what to do.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
most schools don't have that. They don't have that option. So they create, it's kind of like they create their own little monster and then they send it home for the parents to deal with, or they blame the parents. I see that more than anything. The school tries to
Mm,
blame the parents for the behaviors that they reinforced in the school. And behavior is it's supported in its environment. Okay, so if the kiddos goes to school and they start engaging in a behavior repeatedly, there's something reinforcing going on there, or the kid wouldn't be doing it. So it's being
mm,
reinforced, and most likely, most of the time, it's being reinforced in the form of they're sending the kiddo home. That's typically what I see. And that happens with little kids too. It doesn't just happen with teenagers. It just happens that um, when you get into those really violent behaviors, they're
right.
typically the older teenagers, and
Ex-
so that's typically what I get called in for. Um, and of course, there aren't enough behavior analysts in the area to do what I do. I don't know if anybody does what I do. So I'm working
right.
a very large area,
Mm,
and I love it. I really love it when the schools are like, oh my gosh, would you please come in? Because the schools will do private pay, and they'll pay me to teach them. And that's the best scenario. If the schools would do that all the time, we wouldn't see these problems.
mm,
um, and I'm not saying that all behavior analysts have the training that I have. Some behavior analysts are only taught to like do table work, with kiddos.
right.
That's not, I mean, I've done the table work. I did it in my practicum, but that's not what I do. I mean, most of
Right.
my training has been at the PhD level, learning how to handle those really aggressive or really self-injurious behaviors.
Mm.
That's usually when they send me in. And it's the best job ever. I love doing it. I mean, it helps so
Wow.
many
Wow. Wow.
people.
This is so
Um,
informative.
let's see. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about reinforcement. Okay. So, um, when the problem behavior, like let's say, I'm trying to think of something, I deal a lot with repetitive behaviors because the government usually only pays for a behavior analyst services if the kiddo has autism. So I deal a lot with repetitive behaviors, like that repetitive asking, you know? And
Mm,
so typically with that kind of thing, what I tell parents is that, so if the kiddo's in the middle of a fit and they're screaming and they're crying and they're just doing their whole thing, and then all of a sudden they stop. Okay,
right.
so when that break happens, you're going to count to 3 to 5 in your head. Okay, then you're going to look at the child, you're going to give them that eye contact, and you're going to say, good job calming down. I like that. And then you're going to engage with them. Okay.
Mm,
Typically, what happens first time you do that is they start screaming and crying again. And that's fine. Let them start screaming and crying again. You're removing attention again. Okay. And
mm,
you're waiting again for that pause. Okay. And eventually, what's going to happen is they're going to wear themselves out, just like you would wear yourself out beating up a Coke machine. I mean, it's not going to get you your soda. Eventually, you realize, that's not going to work, and you're done. You're just like, I'm
right.
finished with this. So that's where we want the kid to get to, is where they're just like, huh, this didn't do anything. I'm not getting my way.
Mm,
Awesome.
mm,
Okay. So you give them that praise, good job calming down. I really like that. I love it. Now come talk to me, that kind of thing. But yeah, as soon as that problem behavior starts again, all attention is removed again. And everybody needs to work together on that. Partners, husband and wife, everybody needs to be sure that they're doing that consistently, because the kiddo will try to play mom and dad off of each other. Even mom and grandma. Oh my gosh,
Right,
my kids used to try to
right.
play me and my mom off on each other. Yeah. So everybody needs to know how to handle the behavior and what to do. That's
Right.
the best thing. It's gonna fix things the fastest. We have to have the consistency. Um, some things. So I want to talk a little bit about um, some things like if the behavior is not attention maintained, okay, because some behaviors aren't, or with some individuals they're just not. So if the behavior is, let's say it's tangible, let's say that the behavior is tangible, and our behavior is tangible. I mean, when we go to work, we're going to work
Hmm.
because we're getting paid. Our behavior is tangible. We're getting what we want out of it. So with kids, if their behavior is tangible, or it could even be attention and tangible, we need to figure out what their currency is. Okay.
Hmm.
Some kids' currency is attention. If you give them that attention, give them that quality time, that's what they want. And so sometimes you can front load with that. So you can give them lots of that quality attention whenever they're behaving appropriately, and then just remove it whenever they're not being appropriate. Um,
Hmm.
but if they need that tangible, look at things like a token economy. Um, Kids can work for stickers, and you can have a treasure box, of just like little goodies that they like. It does have to be stuff that they like and that they want, or they're not going to do it. If somebody told us they were going to pay us in popcorn
Obstacle.
instead of money, we'd be like, oh, I'm not doing
Right.
that. But we have to figure out what it is that they want. Like my son, for example, would do anything for a Diet Dr. Pepper. And so I would take like a 6-pack of Diet Dr. Pepper to school and just hand it to him. And if he went like halfway through the day without any problem behaviors, he'd get a Diet Dr. Pepper. And for
Hmm.
him, that was great. Um, Typically, people out, or they get tired of those reinforcers. So like, let's say that you were reinforcing your own behavior, and you were loving your green smoothie at the health food store, but then one day you walked in and you were like, yeah, I don't want that anymore. I'm
Yeah.
done. I don't want that anymore. So you constantly have to, with your kids, keep shaking things up and keep trying to figure out, okay, what is it that he or she wants? Okay. My daughter, on one thing that I love is the Kindle Fire for kids. Okay, the
Hmm.
Kindle Fire is locked down, and the parent sets the age limit on it. So if your kid is between you can do 3 to 5, or so with my kid, with Ryder, I have that set, I think, between ages like 6 and 13, I think. And
Hmm.
so all of the content that she can access on that iPad is only between the ages of 6 and 13. Okay. They can't get into anything else. Now, if she wants something else, like let's say that Ryder's wanting a video on YouTube, and it's usually some little quip off of like an anime cartoon or something like that. If she wants that, she's got to work for it. Okay.
Right.
So that's what I use with my kids, is that that little thing, because kids they love videos, and usually on YouTube none of that stuff is going to come up on the Fire Kids unless you add it.
Right.
Okay. So every tiny little thing that they want, it's going to take them doing what they need to do to get that, and that,
Yeah.
if that works, that's their currency, and
Right. Right.
those are easy things. Those things are free, it's easy to add. It's just a really simple thing, and that works so well. Another thing that we found that works is so our internet, our Wi-Fi in the house, we have ours set up to where we have the main internet, which is me and my husband, but our guest internet we have set up under Ryder's name. So if we're
Mhm.
asking Ryder to do something and she's ignoring us, we flip the internet switch off.
Oh.
Okay, so our internet stays on, hers goes off. Okay. And believe me, within 2 seconds, she's running down those stairs wanting to know what she needs to do. Okay. That
Exactly.
makes our life easy.
Right.
So those are just little tricks that, oh my gosh, it makes everything so much easier.
Easier.
Okay. And as soon as she does what she needs to do, we turn the internet back on.
Mm,
It's that simple. And there's no fighting there. It's off until she does what she needs to do. She doesn't argue, she just does it. you know
right.
so that's her currency, though. That's what she needs to be able to do what she needs to do. Okay. So you
Mm,
have to look at whatever it is that your kid needs. For example, let's say I have a kiddo that I work with that loves Nutella. And so I told mom, I was like, that Nutella gets locked up, and she does not have access to that Nutella unless she's done everything that she needs to do for you. And I don't even care if she breaks it up and says, okay, well, you're going to clean your room and then put away your clothes, and you get a bite of Nutella. you know
right.
that's fine. However you need to work it. But they don't have access to those extra things like Wi-Fi and Nutella and whatever else they're wanting until they've done what you've told them to do. Okay. And you
Mm,
can even make it like, part of the thing could be like, if, for example, the cussing. Let's say that the cussing's really bad, and so you guys are all ignoring it. You're not giving it attention. But also kind of add that extra schedule of reinforcement in there. If you make it all day, without doing this, then you get a bite of Nutella, or you get a video on your iPad, or just whatever.
right.
And
Right.
granted, it does get harder when they get older, to find those things that they want. But Wi-Fi is always a good one. If you can flip the Wi-Fi
Exactly.
off,
Everybody
you are
needs.
in control. So that's huge. I would suggest everyone do that. You
Yeah.
definitely want control of that Wi-Fi.
Hmm.
Um, so let's see. Some other things. I always like to talk about other factors that can affect behavior. For example, medical explanations. If your child is screaming and crying all of a sudden out of nowhere, I mean, of course, you want to have the doctor check them. You want to make sure they don't have a tooth that's bad, or an ear infection, or anything like that. I mean,
Right.
always go with medical first. Make sure they're healthy, make sure that their teeth have been checked, make sure they don't have any pain. Um, Another thing that can cause behaviors and make it also really hard for parents is environmental stressors. Like, let's say that the family has lost their place to live. I work with families that are homeless, and it is so hard to try to deal with your child's behavior and try to change how you're reacting to it when you don't know if you're going to have a place to sleep. And so that's one of those things that it's always good for us to remember, um, when other people are concerned too. I mean, don't ever think, oh my gosh, she's handling that terribly, because you don't know what they're going through. I mean, they could be going through horrible stuff, especially right now with the pandemic and everything. I mean, these things make it so hard for families. So
Mm,
just being compassionate, having that empathy, and knowing that it could be a lot more than what we see.
right.
um, Processing speed. Okay, so your kiddos with processing speed, if you tell them, I need you to go pick up your coat, put on your shoes, get your backpack, and wait by the door. Okay, so you just gave them 4 directives. Okay, with processing speed, if their processing speed is low, all they're catching is the first word you said and the last word you said. And when you put those words together, they don't make any sense. And so the kid
Exactly.
might stop and just not do anything, because
Mm,
they're like, I didn't catch that. Or they might start crying because they just didn't understand all of that. So if you're noticing something like that, I would start by using like really short, like, go pick up your coat, or just pointing to the coat and saying, pick up, and nothing else. Just wait. Because I've seen processing speed be so slow that it might take 3 to 4 minutes, Or I've worked with older adults that it's taken them days to understand one command. So you just really want to pay attention to that. If you're thinking there's a processing speed there, a problem there, definitely have them tested. They can, psychologists can do that with IQ testing. They test the processing speed too. You usually can tell though, if you're really concerned and you're like, yeah, I can't hear you. No, sorry. Okay. Let's see, what else do we have here? Paired choice is wonderful. It's a wonderful tool to use. So if your kiddo, like mine, I mean, my daughter has ADHD and autism. And so what she does is she will, if I say something to her and I say, hey, what do you want to eat? She can't process all of that. She's just kind of stuck. It's an open-ended question, and she doesn't really know what to do with that. She'll just, really not say anything. The best thing you can do, if you think there is like a processing speed issue, or if the kid's just not answering, if you give them two choices, if this even works if they're upset, if they're crying hysterically, and just whatever, and they need to eat or something like that, just two choices. And so you're like, do you want this or do you want this? And that's it. And all they have to do is point to it. So what that does is, if there is a processing speed issue there, or if they're just exhausted, or they're over, it's like they're overstimulated, anything like that, it's very simple. You're just giving them those two choices, and all they have to do is point. They don't even have to say anything, And so what that does is it'll take away a lot of that frustration. I often see parents with teenagers that, if they have some learning disability, or they have a slow processing speed, or they have autism, that tends to be one of those things that the child's getting frustrated because that open-ended question, and excuse me, I'm sorry, you're giving them that open-ended question of what do you want, they can't answer it, and so just giving them those two choices and saying which one, and letting them point, is so much easier. So that's something that you can use as well. Just give them those two choices.
Can you hear me now, Susan?
Ratio strain. Okay, ratio strain is another huge one. No. When you're talking about the currency, okay, your child's currency, whether that is a video or it's a Diet Coke or whatever it is, attention,
Right.
Sometimes whenever if we're working and, okay, take, for example, your Sam's days, you're working, and if somebody tells you to do something and you're like, oh no, I don't get paid enough money to do that, I am not doing that. We've all been there, we have all dealt with that. And so that's what ratio strain is. And you have to understand that your kids go through that too. Okay. You might have this reinforcement set up for them, and you might ask them to do something that to them, it's just not worth it. They're like, I am not doing that for that. So again, that's one of those times where you've got to figure out, like, what can I do? Like, can I change the reinforcer? What can I give them? What can I, you have to kind of shake it up and figure out, like, what is it that they're needing? Okay. And a lot of times parents forget that, because we kind of expect kiddos just to, I told you to do it, you need to just do it. Well, there are things for us that are hard, and that we feel like we don't get enough to do them. I have blood injection phobia, for example. And for me to be able to go in and get my blood taken, I have to have a pretty high reinforcer for that, because I hate that. Right. You have to look at, like, how difficult is this for the child to do? If it's more difficult, they need a bigger reinforcer. And something that's difficult for them, we might look at it and go, oh my gosh, that'd be so easy for me. But everybody's different, So you don't know what's going to be hard for them and what's going to be easy for them. If it's hard for them, make it give them more of an incentive. You want to give them more of a paycheck, kind of like,
this is so good. I'm loving this.
Yeah, so that's important too. Another thing is, please remember that, even with teenagers, these kiddos and these adults that I work with, if you walk in the door and you are hesitant, or
Mm,
you're not sure like how they're going to respond, they sense fear. They know. And once, if
mm.
if they get the idea that you're hesitant or you're afraid, it's on. I mean, the behaviors are going to be off the wall. And so conditioning yourself with your own child, like, for
Wow.
example, if the child knows they can embarrass you really easy in public, oh my gosh, they are going to do it. So you have to start controlling yourself and being like,
Mm,
okay, I'm not going to let this get to me. I'm not going to show it. And it does take lots of practice. You have to kind of study your own face when things are going on.
mhm.
I mean, I wouldn't want anyone to have to go through the training I went through, because it was really, really tough, like getting bit, and I had to watch myself in the mirror and there couldn't be any reaction, all of those things.
Right.
So you just want to really be
Exactly.
aware of your facial expression. Sometimes all the reinforcement that a kiddo needs is for you to go, "Ugh," something like that. Sometimes that's all they need, or a glance. So, like, you're not looking at them and then you just kind of glance over and they catch your eye. They
Right.
know that you were paying attention. And so then they're
Mhm.
like, all right, here we go. We're going to step this up. So, really try to pay attention to those things. Really try to be in control of yourself and not to let any of that show. You can do it with practice. It is hard in the beginning. I know it is. I've been there, I've done that. It's
Right.
really, really hard. But the more you practice it, the better you're going to get at it. And pretty soon, they're not going to see anything from you. And then they're not going to do those things because it's not fun anymore. You've just taken
Right.
away all the fun. So
Right.
that's what we're going for. That's what we want. Um, so Nora, I have a few behaviors here that I can run through, and these are just basic behaviors that I see often, and I
Okay.
can tell everyone like what you do in these cases.
Okay.
So the first one, so let's say that you tell your kiddo to do something, and instead of doing what you say, they either ignore you entirely, like you didn't
Mhm.
even say it, or they
Yeah.
just tell you no. Okay. So
That's my daughter.
either way, they're not following instructions, right? And we don't want this. So
Mhm.
once you tell them to do something, okay, you're only going to say it once. It's not going to be this, you know I told you to do this, I told you to do this, and as you get louder and louder and louder, don't go there, because that just gets you down a hole that you're going to have to come all the way back from. Don't even go there. You tell them once, okay? And if they don't do it, you walk over to them, you take their hand, and you make them do it. Okay. So we're talking about, if you said clean up your toys, okay, and they're
Mhm.
not cleaning up the toys, you're going to take their hand, you're going to walk them over to the toys, and you're going to hand over hand it. So you're going to put their little hand in your hand, and you're going to pick up the toy with their hand in your hand, and you're going to put it in the toy box. And you're going to
Mhm.
do all of them that way. Okay.
Mhm.
So what we're teaching is, when mom says it or when dad says it, it's gonna happen. We're not gonna play the game of, I'm gonna ignore them because I know I can get away with it, or
Right.
I'm just not gonna have to do it. No, if you say it once, and then you make them do it, because pretty soon they're gonna be like, oh, I know she's gonna come over here and make me do it, so they're just gonna get up and do it. And
Mhm.
that's what we want. We want to get them to where they'll follow that instruction the minute you say it, because they know they're going to have to do it anyway. Okay. So
Exactly.
that's one of the biggest things that I see. Um, let's see. Let's go to, okay. And this one's basically the same thing. So the child, either refuses to go to bed, okay, which that would be the same scenario. You would take them by the hand, take them in, put them in bed, and you would do that as many times as you need to,
Mhm.
because they need to understand that you're going to respond to this, and they are going to do what you said. Um,
Mhm.
or if they get out of bed repeatedly. So let's say that you went through the whole nighttime routine and you got them in bed and they were laying down and you said goodnight and you shut the door, and here they come walking back out again. Okay. So in
Yes.
in that
This is
situation,
every day.
again, you're not going
Oh
to say
my
anything.
God.
You're not going to look at them. You're going to take them by the hand just as calmly as you can, and you're going to lead them right back into bed. You're not going to look at them. You're not going to say anything. You're going to put them back in bed, and you're going to shut the door, and you're going to walk out again. And you might have to do that several times, depending on how long they've engaged in this behavior. But once they realize, I'm not getting any attention for this, and mom or dad are going to consistently put me back in bed, they're going to give up. They're not going to keep doing it, So it's just that consistency. We've got to have that consistency. If grandma or auntie are watching them, they've got to know to do that too. Because if the kiddo sees someone and they're like, "Ooh, she's a weak link, I can get away with anything with her," they're going to do it. They are going to jump on that. So they have to understand that, it's not just that mom and dad are on the same page. Mom and dad are making sure everyone's on the same page. So I can't get away with anything, and I know it.
Exactly.
So
yes.
that's what we want. So that is all the stuff that I have. And so if you want to, ask questions or anything, that's great. We can do that. I did lose sound again. I can't hear you, Nora,
Can you
again.
still hear
and
me?
I'm wondering if it has to do with an alarm. So I'm going to check an alarm really quick and then come back.
Okay.
It's just going to take me a second here. I'm going to see if this will work.
If you ladies have any questions for her, please ask. Yeah, so if you guys have any questions for Miss Suzan, go ahead and ask them in the comments. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I fixed it.
Yay. I was just telling the ladies that
great.
if they have, because I can actually hear you on my phone, but you can't hear me. But I was just telling the ladies if they had any questions or anything, they could ask you absolutely in the comments. I did hear another lady down here says that her daughter is and as autistic as well, and she has some of those problems. I didn't get to stop you before to try to stop because
I'm sorry.
Yeah. But people were saying things. But my question is like how do we as parents deal with problematic teenagers who have gotten to that point where they're not listening, they're defiant, they're using threatening suicide, threatening running away, like they've just gotten far gone. How do I deal with that teenager?
Right. So I would say if it's suicide, definitely get them into a mental health professional. Take them to a psychiatrist, to a psychologist. Definitely, get them some kind of mental health. It could be depression, it could be anxiety. There are wonderful medications for those things. And the thing is that when your brain, when you're depressed or when you're overly anxious, there's actually a chemical imbalance in your brain. Okay. It's actually a medical cause. I know this. I have generalized anxiety disorder myself. I have been diagnosed with panic disorder, and the medications are wonderful. I don't have those things anymore. And so you definitely want to get your child that help because it is a medical problem if that's the case. So you definitely want to do that. And medical professionals are also, the mental professionals are also going to walk them through, okay, have you made a plan to kill yourself? Do you have those tools to kill yourself? So if they say yes, the mental health professional, the psychologist or the psychiatrist is going to go to you and say, okay, so he says that there's a handgun in the house and he knows where the bullets are. And the first thing you're going to do is take care of that. Okay. So that's what we're wanting. We want to make sure that he or she is safe. If he says there's a handgun at grandpa's house and I have access to it, you're going to go tell grandpa, and you're going to make sure that grandpa has all of that stuff locked up and that there's no access. So you're going to make sure that you're helping with those things along with, medication or whatever else you need. So with teenagers, if they are being defiant, they're refusing to do what they need to do. Again, you have to figure out what that currency is. So you've got to figure out, is it the Wi-Fi that they want the most? Are they gamers? Are they wanting to play their game? Usually Wi-Fi is a big thing for teenagers. So again,
TikTok
on your phone,
and Instagram
having
and
that
stuff.
Little switch that you can just touch and turn the internet off and say, okay, when you're done with this, I will turn it back on. So,
exactly.
You're controlling that. And again, like with the Nutella, I mean, it tends to surprise me every time, and it shouldn't. But those little things that the kid loves, that It's not like your dinner, your breakfast, lunch, or dinner. It's just those extra snacky things that they have available, and they've got them
Mm-hmm.
available 24/7. And I'm like, no, those extra things like Wi-Fi and Nutella and cookies and their favorite kind of ice cream, they only get those things if they're doing what they need to do. Use those
Mm-hmm.
things to your advantage. They don't
Right.
need soda every day. If
Exactly.
they have a soda that they like and it's their favorite, they're not getting it until they've done what you need them to do. So
I
control
like
those
that.
things. Yes,
Yes.
control those things. Again, like with my daughter, it's just those videos. That's all she wants, and
Mm.
it's easy. We don't have any problem getting her to do what she needs to do, because that's what she wants. She wants the Wi-Fi and she wants those videos, and
Yeah.
so we have complete control over those things. If you have to, take that Nutella and lock it in the trunk of the car. Do
I'm
whatever you gotta do.
right. I'm
Don't let
struggling
them.
now, Susan, with my daughter who gets out of bed. You know,
Uh-huh.
your
Uh-huh.
example was like spot on. Like I said, my
That's
3-year-old gets out of bed
uh-huh.
every night, and she's done
Uh-huh.
that since she was little. And
Yeah.
so I just kept putting her back. I get up, I put her back, and then I'll give in and let her come in my bed because it's
Uh-huh.
like 2 o'clock in
Exactly.
the morning.
Yes.
And I'm like, I
No.
gotta stop doing that. So like,
You
I guess we're
can't
gonna
do
start
that.
tonight to try to like keep her in that
Yes.
bed. And I've been consistent where I've like made her go back in the bed, but then like 3 days later I cave in and she's back in
Mhm.
my bed again.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I just
Yeah.
want to be more consistent. Like
Yes.
it's
And the thing
hard for me.
is, I understand it. It is. It's hard for everybody. And the thing is that whenever you give in every now and then,
Right.
that creates a more robust problem behavior, because then they're like, okay, I'm just not trying hard enough. I've got to try harder to get to sleep with mom. Okay. So you have to stop that. I mean, it has to end. Once you say, you're going to bed, I mean, that's the end of the discussion. Where there is no, oh, I'm going to try to weasel my way in. No, it's over. What mom and dad say is the end. It's got a period after it. It's done.
Exactly. Oh my goodness.
So,
So what
yes.
I keep hearing you say is consistency, consistency,
It
consistency.
is. Yes, it is. Yes. And mom and dad, or partners being on the same page. You've got
Right.
to discuss these things earlier. So telling your husband, this is what we're going to do tonight. This is
Mm-hmm.
it, so that if she tries to go and get dad on her side, he's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh,
No,
that
no,
is
no.
not happening.
Right, which is what she does. She will go
Oh,
get
yeah.
dad and say, oh,
Yeah.
okay, I'm just gonna ask daddy. Or like
Uh-huh.
if I say no popsicles, oh, I'll just ask daddy. Can I ask daddy for it? I'm like, no, we're in the same united front. But
Yes.
she's a daddy's girl, so he'll wait till I go in another room and she'll have a popsicle. And I'm like,
No, no,
oh
no, no,
no.
no. No. Tell him Susan said no.
No, okay, I
Can't do
definitely
it.
will. Maybe
Yes.
he'll listen to you, Susan, because he is
Yes.
not listening
Can't
to
do that.
me.
Well, because I mean, the thing is we don't want them to become teenagers and adults that think that they can punch somebody and get their way, or what I mean,
Exactly.
because that's where it leads to. It leads to it opens this whole door to things that are just unimaginable, and we don't want to go there. We want it
Mm-hmm.
taken care of when they're little. And
Mm-hmm.
I understand. I mean, some behaviors, if you didn't know what to do and now the kid's a teenager, it is more difficult, but it can be fixed. It just
Mm.
takes that consistency. You can't let them get away with those things. Once you say it, that's it. It's done. And you're going to make sure they follow through, or whatever it is that they're wanting, they're not going to get.
Mm. This has been so good. It's a lot of things that a lot of
Good.
people don't think about.
It is.
I learned a lot. Can you talk a little bit? I know that we're headed toward the hour, but I wanted you to talk a little bit about those triggers that, like, what are some signs I would be looking for that my kids are about to have a fit, or this is probably not the right direction I need to be going in, or I'm reinforcing bad behavior without
Right.
maybe knowing it.
Yes, yes. So, anytime, like if you're disciplining, for example,
Mm-hmm.
and your daughter's over there grinning and maybe even a little giggle,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that means she's loving that discipline. And with the kiddos, they don't differentiate between what we would call good attention and bad attention. To them,
Right.
it's attention to maintain behavior, it's all attention.
Right.
It's all free game. So they, and again, they think it's funny usually when you get upset. Okay. So if you're, giving a punishment, you're giving a lecture and they're enjoying it, obviously, then you need to remove that attention. So then whenever they engage in that problem behavior, like if, for example, the cuss word again, they say the cuss word, and instead of lecturing them and telling them how bad that is, if it's attention maintained behavior, you're not going to say a word. You're just going to, nothing. It's no eye contact, no verbal response. It's done.
Mm-hmm.
So looking for those things is kind of going to give you an idea of what the function of their behavior is, if you watch for those things. Another thing I see a lot is like if the kiddo, parents will ask me, okay, so she elopes, she takes off running, like in the store, and she's running away from me, and I'm
Mm.
trying to chase her down. And I'm like, okay, so what's she doing when she's running away? Is she turning back and looking at you? And the parent's like, oh, yeah. And she's giggling. There you go. She's
Mm-hmm.
enjoying this. This has become a game. So you
Right.
want to make it the least like a game as you possibly can. Okay. So if you're following her, you're going to go after her, but you're going to walk. You're going to keep your eye on her. You know how you can watch someone out of your peripheral vision. You don't have to
Right.
look right at them. So you're going to kind of, be real calm about it, but you're going to follow. You're not going to look. You're not going to say anything. Okay. And you're just going to follow until you get them. You want to make it, I mean, granted, if it's danger, if they're running in front of traffic, you're going to go fast. You know what I mean? But you do it
Yeah.
when you get a lot of attention, because if they're looking back at you, that's it. It's attention maintained behavior, and it's a game to them.
Right.
And that's typically what I see in situations like that. The kid has
Mm.
found, oh, this is chase and I love it. And I'm going to run off, and mom's screaming and, and in a panic and everything. So we want to make sure that we're really controlling, like our facial expression. We're really controlling where our eye contact is,
Mm.
eye contact is huge. It's such a big thing. That's just part of that attention.
Right.
It's the verbal and the eye contact. So always be thinking about that. If the kiddo is, you're in the store and they're, crying that they want a cookie. I mean, obviously, that at that moment, that behavior is tangible. It does have the attention component because they can't get the cookie without you.
Right.
So it's still, we call that a social positive because it has to do with attention and the tangible item.
Right.
So you're not going to give the eye contact. You're not going to say anything. You're just going to let them cry, let them throw their fit. The calmer you can be, the better. Because if the kid's thinking,
Mm.
she didn't even care that I'm crying, they're not going to cry anymore because it's not working. So
Right.
you definitely want to do that. That's harder for grandparents. I have found that grandparents have a really, really, really hard
Right.
time with
They
letting
just
the
want to
kiddo
spoil the
cry.
kids.
It is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
My
have to.
daughter asked for Play-Doh. That's her
Uh-huh.
thing. Whenever we go into a store, she has to have Play-Doh. Like no matter, even if it's like a convenience store, she
Yeah.
said that if we're in a store, she's got to get a Play-Doh, or she wants the Play-Doh. So when we go in the door, like as we're pulling up, and she knows Walmart too. So like she
Oh yeah.
knows that there's Play-Doh there, and she's gonna do
Mm-hmm.
whatever she can to get
Mm-hmm.
the Play-Doh. So I'm like,
Right.
well, I'll leave that to the last thing,
Mm-hmm.
because that way while we're in the store getting all the groceries, she'll be good the
Yes.
whole trip
Yes.
until we
Yeah.
get to the
Right.
Play-Doh.
Yes.
And I learned
Yeah.
it the hard way, because I used to get it for her because she was bugging me up front.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no,
No.
no. If you're
Right.
good, we'll get it. Because I mean, it's cheap. It's like
Yeah.
50 cents for those little cans. And
Sure.
she's
Yeah.
3. So
Yeah.
it's easy to please her now. I know it'll
Yeah.
get harder as she's older, but right
It
now
does.
I can, if I say, hey, if you good in the store, all the way, we'll get you the Play-Doh at the counter. So I'll go get
Absolutely.
that last. Out of every
Mhm.
item, we'll get the Play-Doh
Yes. Well,
last.
and you could always tie the Play-Doh to going to bed at night.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Okay. So
Yeah.
so it's not just that she has to be good until you get to the Play-Doh, but she's only going to get the Play-Doh if she's gone to bed and stayed in bed the last few nights. And that might
Mm,
take her a couple times to figure out. And what she's going to do is, if she doesn't earn it, she's going to throw that fit in the store a few times. But
mhm.
once she realizes that you're serious, she's not going to do that anymore. So
Mm,
the only thing is you don't want to tie too many behaviors to one item. Okay.
right.
Because then it gets overwhelming. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely, I mean, that would be totally doable to tell her that she has to, stay in bed at night if she wants to get the Play-Doh whenever you go to
Mm-hmm.
the store.
Yeah.
So, that would be something you could use. And, that might work for a while. And then, she might get tired of the Play-Doh. So you would have to come up with something else.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the whole thing with behavior. We even for us, like, for example, you start a diet and you're like, okay, I'm going to stick to my diet. And on Friday, I'm going to have a cheat day. Well, by Monday, you're going, that's too far away. I can't do it. So and that's that ratio strain. That's where you're like, I can't do this for that. So you've got to
Mm-hmm.
figure out what it is that's actually going to work for her.
Right,
And
right,
that's no different than us. We have to remember that our kiddos need those reinforcers just like we do.
right.
We're all people, we're all individuals. So just keeping that in mind and trying to think, like, what is it that I can kind of adjust at home? Like, if they do have free access to cookies, or they do have free access to a favorite snack item, don't let that be free access.
Right,
If they want that, they've got to do something for it. This
right.
is, they've got to work for those extra things that they want, just like we do.
Exactly.
And they're never too young to learn that. They're
Exactly.
always, they're old enough. I mean, I've even had colleagues that have taught, their babies. I have a colleague that taught her 4-month old. Okay. So her 4-month old, this was amazing. Her 4-month old, instead of crying to be picked up, he would coo and give her a little eyebrow lift if he wanted to be picked up at 4 months old.
Wow.
And
I
so,
wish.
they're never too young to learn these little things. You can
Mhm.
teach them early. It's not something, and we're not doing something that, I mean, I would never tell you to do something with your child that you don't have to abide by too. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah, that makes
we
sense.
have to
Yeah.
work if we want those extra things. We don't
Yeah.
get them for free.
Right.
And so your kiddo needs to learn that early, that if you
Mm.
want those extra things, you have to work for them.
Right. And they won't grow up thinking people owe them something or this stuff just comes
Exactly.
naturally.
Yeah,
You have to earn
exactly.
it. You have to earn it.
You have to earn
Yes.
it. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that's extra, favorite snackies, Wi-Fi, if you want your favorite doll clothes, whatever, Play-Doh,
Yeah.
they have to earn it. Yes.
Yes. I love this. I'm gonna apply some of this stuff immediately. Like
Awesome. Good
and
deal. Yeah.
I've been the new year came, right? So I've been trying to organize my home and get
Mhm.
all the toys situated. And I
Sure.
realized like my kids have way too many toys and I really need to just stop buying toys.
Yeah.
Like we go to the store
Right.
and you just get a toy. Like that should be an
You do.
award or some type of
It
thing that
is.
you
They
had
have
to
to work for
earn. You should,
that.
yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes, they
yeah.
have to earn that. Yeah. And that's where that sticker chart can come in really handy, because you can do a sticker chart, and so for every day that they follow instructions really well and they do what they need to do, they get a sticker. And when they have 3 to 5 stickers, they get a toy. Make it to where there's some kind of currency that they can see.
Hmm.
Um we use stickers, we use stars, we can use uh tokens, like, you can use poker chips as long as they don't have access to where they can sneak them out, because they will do that.
Yeah.
So just something that you control.
Hmm.
Stickers always work good for kids because they like the stickers. You can get like My Pretty Pony stickers or whatever,
Right, right,
and
right.
let them put the stickers on a page. And then they can
Mm.
check off, and however many you think they need, like if they need to go a week or whatever you need, you'll find out right away if it's too long. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
just like, with the diet, if you're on Monday and you're looking at Friday going, I can't make it that far.
Yeah, let me cut this to Wednesday.
Yes, yes. So you
Right.
have to keep that in mind. And if they do need something more, I mean, like I said, the treasure box, you could have those little Play-Doh things in a treasure box.
Right.
And so,
Hmm.
every day that she follows instructions and does what she needs to do, or she goes to bed and stays, she could get a Play-Doh out of the treasure box, you know. That's, and having a treasure box with lots of things that they like is very enticing, because it's a surprise, and you know,
Right.
they get to dig through it and
Yeah.
see what they want. And you know, and your youngest, I mean, it's never they're never too young to learn these things. And
Right.
so if she starts learning these things too, like if you're like, oh hey, you know, you can be mommy's helper and you can put this up for me, and then be like, good job, you get a sticker, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So then
Yeah.
she's learning that
Yeah,
as
my
well.
little one, she goes to bed because I was like, no, we're not doing this bed thing with the
Uh-huh.
little one. So when she's screaming and stuff, I give her a binky, or she has her
Mhm.
or her milk or a bath before, and then she
Mhm.
goes to bed. Any type
Yeah.
of like activity after that, she knows that we're not gonna get her out, so she just goes to
Good.
sleep and goes to bed. But
Good.
with my other daughter, you know, that was my first child, so I kind of coddled her a
Uh-huh.
lot more, and I think I ruined her early. So now I'm having to go like and kind of go back and
Me
backtrack
too.
and
Yeah.
try to be a stern mom. And she's just like, no, I don't know this stern mom. I know the mom
Uh-huh.
that, you know, beckons to every
Right.
call and she does all this. So it's just,
Yes.
she's meeting a different version of me right now.
Oh, sure. I know. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So, absolutely. But yes, this has been so good, Susan. I appreciate you coming
Good.
on and doing this. It
Yeah.
was so helpful. I hope the moms learned something. I know people have been
Yeah.
commenting and stuff. You can't see all the comments, I can on my side, but
Oh, it's
we'll
okay.
go
Yeah.
back and look at them later. But yeah,
Yeah.
I really appreciate you. This has been so good. I definitely got to bring you back sometime. I wish I would have knew all
Yeah.
about this sooner. I definitely would have had you on way sooner. We've been doing this about a
Oh,
year now.
yeah. It's
But yeah,
good.
I
Yeah.
appreciate all that you've attributed to us tonight. It's been very informative. And
Good.
so hopefully I can put some of this stuff like immediately, because I got to get
Yeah.
this baby out of my
Yeah.
bed.
I understand. Yes.
Absolutely. Do you
Yeah.
have any last things to leave to the moms tonight, or any tips or anything we could use?
You know, we've gone over everything, but definitely, like, if there are any questions, you know, definitely send them to Nora, and Nora can message me and I will get answers to you. Okay.
Okay.
I don't want to leave anybody hanging, so you know, anything that we've not covered that anyone has asked, I will definitely get back to you guys as soon as I can. So yeah, definitely send those to me.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you again, Susan, and I
Yeah,
hope to
thank
have you
you.
back. And you have a great night, okay?
You too. Thank you so much.
Uh-huh. You have a good evening.
Okay, you too.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, ladies, so much for tuning in. That was Miss Suzan. She is amazing. She gave us all those tips and tricks on how to maintain those behavioral issues with our kiddos. She talked a lot about different ways that we can parent. And I hope you ladies take some of that to heart. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you guys come on back here Saturday, well, if you sign up Saturday, RSVP to our and register for our event this Saturday. We're having a vision board party, ladies. You need to be in that Zoom call. It is going to be phenomenal. I have 3 women that are coming to knock our socks off. They are phenomenal women speakers, and they are going to be talking about finances. We're going to talk about stability. We're going to talk about relationship building, and we're going to talk about your spiritual health. So many different issues that they're going to cover. And I hope you ladies tune in and buy your tickets and be with us on Saturday for our first ever vision board party. All right, ladies, I will see you guys back here on Tuesday. And if not before then, on Saturday at our vision board party. I'm so excited, y'all, because this has been a prayer of mine. And it will be good. It will be so well. And I know God is going to move. So I will see you guys on Saturday. Y'all have a good rest of your week. And I will see you later.